Communication training with Stan, Oak, and Connor.
This week we're going to start out talking about our professional communication strategies. And the first strategy that we're going to learn about is responding well to criticism or negative feedback. You know how in our reviews, if you've ever had an employee review, many times there's a spot in that review, in that evaluation, that says something along the lines of responds well to criticism, handles negative feedback well, something like that. People notice our ability to respond to and take criticism and feedback when it comes to our work. It's something really important. And not everybody has a process that they use when receiving criticism or negative feedback. So what we're going to learn this week is the responds well to feedback. Oh! You want to be that person who people feel very comfortable giving feedback to, criticizing, so to speak. Because it shows confidence, it shows power, and the ability to receive and then do something with negative feedback and criticism is a really coveted ability. So you want to be that person. And to do so, all you need to do is implement a simple 3-step process. Step number 1. When somebody is critiquing your work, is giving you negative feedback, remember that we want to be open to that feedback, but that's not natural for us to do, right? I mean, you don't like it when somebody criticizes your work. I don't. It's not natural to like that. So what we tend to do is, when somebody starts to criticize our work, whether we're conscious of it or not, we tend to close down. Like, we'll cross our arms, we'll do this and think about it. And remember, we talked in previous lessons how our body language actually affects our thought patterns. It affects our chemical balance in our bodies. So what you do physically actually affects what's going on mentally. Therefore, step number 1 is to be open to the criticism. And what we're going to do is be open to that criticism physically. So step number 1 is we want to make sure we are projecting an open body posture. So let's say that you're giving your boss a product description that you're going to then put online, describing your products or services. And you give it to your boss, and your boss says something along the lines of, "This is really wordy, this is too long, it should be 500 words or less, and I see that you've got about 750 words here." What our tendency to do is something like this. So instead, step number 1, when you're receiving feedback, consciously put your shoulders back and make sure your chest is open, and you're physically going to be open to receive that message. And that will help you, again, mentally be more open to receive that message. Because we really should be open to receive criticism. It's not easy, and it's not natural. It's something that we work on. So this 3-step process will help you do it. So step number 1, be open to it physically. Put your arms down, your shoulders back, and your chest out. That will not only project the message that you're open to receive this criticism, and people will notice that, because remember, over half the message we send at any time when we're communicating face-to-face is visual. But it will also help you on a conscious and subconscious level be more open to receiving that criticism. Step number 2 is to clarify the feedback. For example, again, if I were to give my boss a description of our products and services, and he were to say something such as, "Boy, this is way too long, it really should be under 500 words if we're going to put this online," I would want to, step number 2, respond by saying something along the lines of, "Oh, all right, so you're saying that the product description is too long." That's step number 2. You want to repeat the criticism back to the person, feed it back. And then step number 3 is you want to ask a solution-focused question. Here's an example of a solution-focused question. So you're saying that if I can make the product description 500 words or less, you would sign off on this. Is that correct? So when you ask a solution-focused question, what you're really asking is, if I can blank, will you then blank? If this happens, will you then be ready to do XYZ, to agree with this, to sign off on this? So you basically have 2 different options. I could either say, all right, so if I make it 500 words or less, then would you be ready to sign off on this? Or I could say something along the lines of, all right, well, if I could show you evidence to support my belief that this 750-word description is actually going to sell more of our products and help our customers understand it more, would you be ready to sign off on it then? So you have a choice. You can either say, all right, I really believe in what I have just done, and if I can show you evidence to support my belief that this is actually the best way to do it, would you then be ready to sign off? Or I could take what's generally the easier route and simply say, hey, buddy's joining us. Hey, buddy. And I could simply say, all right, if I do what you're asking, which is what we've already clarified, make it 500 words or less, would you then be ready to sign off? And if you can use that 3-step process, be open and ready to receive the criticism, repeat back the criticism and make sure that you're understanding exactly what it is, and then ask a solution-focused question along the lines of, all right, if I do that, then will you be ready to sign off? Or, all right, if I can convince you by showing you evidence to support what I believe is going to be better, would you be ready to sign off on it then? That 3-step process is going to help you project the image of someone who takes and responds to criticism well. And if you can be one of those people who can always be known as someone who's open and ready to receive criticism, and then will respond to it and act on that criticism, therefore projecting an image of somebody who can collaborate and cooperate with those with whom you work, your image of a polished professional communicator will be heads and shoulders above everyone else's, simply because you know strategies to use and simple step-by-step processes to use, such as the responds well to feedback.